The power of delayed reactions. Listen carefully. Your life changes the moment you stop reacting like a victim and start responding like a strategist. Every argument you lost, every mistake you made, every opportunity you ruined came from one thing. You reacted too fast. You let emotion outrun intelligence. You let impulse steal the outcome. But that ends today. This audiobook teaches you the most important discipline you will ever master: the power to pause, think, and choose your reaction. If you train this one skill, you become untouchable. If you ignore it, life controls you. The choice is yours. Chapter 1. Stop reacting. Start responding. You need to understand something right now. Your life is built on your reactions. Every victory, every failure, every broken relationship, every missed opportunity, they all trace back to a moment when you reacted without thinking, or you responded with intention. That's the line. That's the difference. And that difference is everything. Because you have a choice. You always have a choice. Most people just never use it. Reactions are automatic. Responses are deliberate. Reactions are emotional. Responses are strategic. Reactions are driven by impulse. Responses are driven by discipline. And that distinction is what will separate the rest of your life from the version of your life you've been settling for until now. If you want control, you must stop reacting and start responding. That's the key. And we will repeat that key until your brain has no choice but to internalize it. Let's break it down. A reaction is a reflex. Someone sends you a disrespectful text, and before you even think, your thumbs are firing back paragraphs. That's a reaction. Your boss questions your work, and you immediately get defensive. That's a reaction. A family member criticizes you, and you explode in anger because it hits an old wound. That's a reaction. Notice something? A reaction isn't chosen. It's triggered. It is a leash on your mind that somebody else is holding. You have a choice, but in a reaction, you don't use it. You surrender it. A response is different. A response is a pause, a breath, a moment to assess. It is the refusal to let the first emotion dictate the outcome. A response is intentional. It is calculated. It is rooted in awareness. You don't respond to feel good in the moment. You respond to create the best outcome possible. And that's the key. It's not about being calm. It's about being in control. Ask yourself right now, how many problems in your life exist because you reacted instead of responded? How many arguments spiraled because you spoke before thinking? How many opportunities slipped because you acted out of fear instead of strategy? How many relationships broke because someone pulled an emotional trigger and you fired back without hesitation? You know the answer. We all do. That's why this chapter matters. Let's walk through the real world. Let's make it tangible. Scenario 1. The text argument. You've been there. Someone sends a message that hits your pride. Maybe it's dismissive. Maybe it's sarcastic. Maybe it's designed to provoke you. Your instinct is to reply instantly, to defend yourself, to prove your point, to protect your ego. But that instant reaction rarely leads to clarity. It leads to escalation. It leads to miscommunication. It leads to hours, sometimes days, of unnecessary emotional drainage. And why? Because you reacted. Because you didn't pause. Because you forgot you had a choice. Scenario 2. Workplace pressure. Your manager calls you out during a meeting. Your instinct is to justify yourself, to explain, to push back. But that reaction often makes you look defensive, unprepared, or insecure. A response, on the other hand, changes everything. A response sounds like, "I hear you. Let me clarify what happened, and I'll propose a solution." That's power. That's control. That's the difference between someone who gets overlooked and someone who gets promoted. It's not about being calm. It's about being in control. Scenario 3. Family conflict. Family knows your buttons better than anyone. They've been pressing them for years. They know exactly what to say to pull you into old patterns. A reaction keeps you trapped in those patterns. A response breaks them. A response says, I'm not engaging from emotion. I'm engaging from intention. You have a choice. You just need to use it. Let's go deeper. Reactions are driven by your survival brain, the part of you wired to protect, defend, and attack. It doesn't care about long-term consequences. It cares about immediate relief. That's why reacting feels good in the moment, but terrible afterward. Because your survival brain isn't built for strategic living. It's built for survival. Responses come from the higher brain, the part of you designed for judgment, planning, introspection, decision-making. The part that thinks. The part that pauses. The part that sees more than the emotion in front of you. When you respond, you're not just choosing your words. You're choosing your identity. You're choosing your future. And yes, you will forget this sometimes. You will slip. You will react. But this book, this chapter, this lesson, it's designed to give you the awareness to catch yourself. That's the real transformation. Not perfection. Awareness. Awareness creates choice. Choice creates control. Control creates power. Say it with me, you have a choice. Let's make it practical. Here are 3 steps you must start using immediately. Step 1. Recognize the surge. You know the feeling, the spike in your chest, the tightening in your jaw, the urge to defend yourself. That's the moment your body is preparing to react. Awareness is step 1. Catch the surge. Step 2. Pause for 3 seconds. This is non-negotiable. The 3-second pause is where you reclaim your power. It interrupts the autopilot reaction and forces your brain to shift from instinct to intention. 3 seconds. You always have 3 seconds. Step 3. Ask a simple question. What outcome do I want? Not, what do I feel? Not, what do they deserve? Not, how do I protect my pride? The question is, what outcome do I want? When you ask that question, your mind moves into strategy mode. And from strategy comes a response, not a reaction. You have a choice. Use it. Let's address the truth you already know. Reacting is easier. It's faster. It's instinctive. It's your default mode. But your default mode is the reason you feel stuck. Your default mode is the reason arguments keep repeating. Your default mode is the reason you sabotage your own progress. It's not about being calm. It's about being in control. And control requires intention. Control requires awareness. Control requires discipline. This chapter is the foundation of the entire audiobook. Why? Because nothing else works if you're still reacting like the old version of yourself. You can't master your emotions, your habits, your identity, or your environment if you remain a slave to impulse. The pause is the doorway to every transformation you desire. And that doorway appears every single day, sometimes multiple times a day. Someone insults you. Someone pressures you. Someone challenges you. Someone disappoints you. In every moment, you have a choice. Stop handing over your power. Stop letting other people dictate your behavior. Stop letting emotions drag you into reactions that cost you relationships, progress, and peace. Stop reacting. Start responding. That is the discipline. That is the path. That is the shift. And now that you understand the difference between reaction and response, it's time to go deeper. Because reactions don't come from logic. They come from emotion. If you want to control your reactions, you must understand the forces behind them. You mastered the pause. Now let's talk about the signals behind the impulse. Chapter 2. Your emotions are not commands. Your emotions speak loudly. They speak fast. They show up uninvited. And they don't ask if now is the right time. Emotions are powerful, but here's the truth you must learn immediately. Emotions are signals, not commands. They point to something. They reveal something. They warn you about something. But they do not get to decide your behavior unless you hand them the keys. And you've been handing them the keys for far too long. You have a choice. That's the key. Your emotions demand attention, but they do not deserve obedience. And if you want to build a disciplined mind, a stable life, and a powerful identity, you must stop treating emotions like orders. They're not orders. They're information. Let's get direct. Most people believe, I feel it, so I must act on it. They think feelings are instructions. They think anger requires retaliation. They think jealousy requires confrontation. They think insecurity requires withdrawal. They think frustration requires quitting. But that's not discipline. That's not control. That's not strength. That's emotional slavery. You don't need their permission. You need discipline. You need the discipline to pause, interpret, and respond, not obey. Let's walk through the real scenarios you deal with every day. Scenario 1. Jealousy. It hits you fast. It hits you hard. Your partner talks to someone else, or spends time elsewhere, or gives attention to something that isn't you. And that emotion rises. The insecurity, the fear, the imagination running wild. Jealousy screams at you. Do something. Jealousy commands you to accuse, interrogate, argue, control. But here's the truth. Jealousy is not giving you facts. Jealousy is giving you a signal. It's pointing to your wounds, your fears, your assumptions. It's not telling you what they did. It's telling you how you feel. You have a choice. You can react from insecurity, or you can respond from clarity. That's the key. Scenario 2. Frustration with coworkers. Someone misses a deadline. Someone talks over you in a meeting. Someone sends you a sloppy file right before a big presentation. Frustration shows up instantly. Your mind fires with irritation. Your chest tightens. Your brain screams, why can't people just do their job? That emotion wants a reaction. It wants you to snap, to email aggressively, to blame, to escalate. But frustration isn't a command. It's a signal that expectations weren't met. It's information. It's data. And data should guide decisions, not trigger explosions. You don't need their permission. You need discipline. Scenario 3. Self-doubt during challenges. You're trying something new. You're leveling up. You're stepping into unfamiliar territory. And suddenly, self-doubt appears. It whispers quietly at first. Are you sure you can do this? Then it gets louder. You're not ready. Then louder. You're going to fail. And before you know it, self-doubt feels like absolute truth. But it isn't truth. It's a signal. It's alerting you to discomfort, to growth, to risk. It's your mind's way of saying, this matters. Self-doubt is not a stop sign. It's a request for preparation. It's an invitation to focus. You have a choice. Believe the story your fear tells you, or write a new one through action. That's the key. Let's dig deeper. Emotions are ancient survival mechanisms. Fear kept your ancestors alive. Anger protected their resources. Jealousy signaled threats to connection. Frustration pushed them away from obstacles. But you're not living in the jungle anymore. You're living in a world where discipline beats instinct. You don't need to let emotions dictate your next move. You need to let them inform your next move. Think about the last time you obeyed an emotion without thinking. The last time anger made you say something you couldn't take back. The last time fear kept you from applying for an opportunity. The last time jealousy pushed someone away. The last time frustration ruined your productivity. Did the emotion help you, or did it control you? You know the answer. This chapter is about reclaiming power. Emotional control isn't about suppressing feelings. It's about interpreting them. It's about deciding what each emotion is trying to tell you. It's about choosing the best response instead of surrendering to the easiest reaction. Here's the framework you must adopt immediately. Step 1. Name the emotion. You can't command what you don't identify. Is it fear, anger, jealousy, shame, frustration? Naming the emotion forces the logical part of your brain to wake up. It brings awareness into the moment. Awareness is power. Step 2. Interpret the signal. Ask, what is this emotion pointing to? Fear points to uncertainty. Anger points to boundaries. Jealousy points to insecurity. Frustration points to blocked expectations. Self-doubt points to growth. Every emotion has a message. Decode it. Step 3. Choose your response. This is where discipline separates you from who you used to be. A reaction is automatic. A response is chosen. You have a choice. That's the key. Emotions yell. Discipline whispers. Emotions push. Discipline directs. Emotions want speed. Discipline wants clarity. And clarity always wins. Let's anchor this even deeper. Say this out loud in your mind. My emotions are signals. They are not commands. Again, I don't need their permission. I need discipline. Again, I have a choice. Repeat these until they become automatic. This repetition is not filler. It's reprogramming. You're rewiring the way your mind interacts with emotional intensity. Let's talk about consequences. When you treat emotions as commands, your life becomes chaotic. You get caught in arguments you didn't need to have. You burn bridges you didn't need to burn. You quit goals you didn't need to quit. You attach meaning where there was none. You become reactive, volatile, unpredictable, even to yourself. But when you treat emotions as signals, your life becomes structured. You respond with intention. You express yourself with clarity. You choose your battles intelligently. You protect your energy. You build stability. You become someone who cannot be easily manipulated. Someone who cannot be easily provoked. Someone who cannot be easily controlled. That is power. Emotional power. Strategic power. The kind of power that changes careers, relationships, and destinies. You don't need anyone's permission to gain control of your inner world. You need discipline. And discipline begins with the pause, the interpretation, and the chosen response. You're no longer living at the mercy of your feelings. You're learning to lead them. And when you lead your emotions, you lead your life. Now that you understand that emotions are signals, not commands, it's time to build the next layer. Because knowing your emotions aren't in charge is one thing. Learning how to interrupt impulsive reactions in real time is another challenge entirely. You've recognized the emotional signals. Now it's time to master the space between trigger and response. Chapter 3. Delay is power. There is a single habit that can change the trajectory of your life. A habit so small you can perform it anywhere, anytime, under pressure or in silence. It is the habit almost nobody respects, yet the most disciplined individuals rely on it constantly. It is the pause. A deliberate, controlled, intentional delay between the emotion and the action. Between the impulse and the response. Between the urge and the decision. You want power, real power, not the kind you post about, not the kind you talk about, the kind you can actually use when every instinct inside you is screaming to react. Then you must learn this principle. Delay is power. You have a choice. You always have a choice. Most people do not believe that. They feel an emotion and act as if they have been commanded. But Chapter 2 already showed you the truth. Your emotions are not orders. They are information. And now you will learn the next step. You can control what you do with that information. You control it with the pause. That's the key. When you pause, you interrupt the automatic cycle. You break the loop. You stop the emotional reaction from becoming a physical decision. And here is the repetition you must hear again and again. The pause protects you. It protects your time. It protects your money. It protects your reputation. It protects your relationships. It protects your future. Most people ruin their lives in 5-second decisions. They fire back a text they should not send. They say something in anger they cannot pull back. They buy something they cannot afford. They agree to something they cannot handle. They react instead of responding. They obey the impulse instead of controlling it. Why? Because they are impatient. Because they are emotional. Because they confuse urgency with importance. You will not make that mistake anymore. You have a choice. Let's break down where delay gives you power. 1. Power in negotiations. In negotiations, silence is a weapon. Delay is leverage. When you pause before responding, you show strength. You show that you are not desperate. You show that you evaluate before committing. Picture a salary negotiation. The employer gives you a number. Most people panic. They accept instantly because they feel pressure. They feel the room closing in. They feel the opportunity slipping away. But you use the pause. You take 3 seconds, maybe 5, maybe 10. That silence communicates something powerful. You are not intimidated. You have standards. You operate with discipline, not emotion. And the result? The other side usually fills the silence. They offer more. They clarify. They justify. They adjust. Because you paused. Because the pause protects you. You don't need their permission. You need discipline. 2. Power in arguments. Arguments are emotional traps. They pull you into a reactive state. They provoke you. They rush you. They flood your mind with heat and noise. But you have a choice. You always have a choice. In an argument, the pause can save your relationship, your credibility, and your self-respect. Someone attacks you verbally. They insult you. They misunderstand you. They accuse you. Your instinct is to strike back instantly. But that is emotion, not strategy. That is impulse, not discipline. Pause. 3 seconds. Breathe. That is enough time for your brain to shift from survival to clarity. Enough time to reduce the emotional charge. Enough time to ask yourself the most powerful question in conflict. What outcome do I actually want? Not, what do I feel? But, what do I want to create? It's not about your ego. It's about your discipline. It's not about being right. It's about being effective. The pause protects you. Someone who can pause during conflict is not weak. They are controlled. They are focused. They are operating at a higher level. 3. Power in financial decisions. Money is emotional. Buying is emotional. Investing is emotional. Most financial mistakes happen because people refuse to delay gratification. They chase the feeling. They chase the urgency. They convince themselves that right now is the only moment that matters. This is how people fall into debt. This is how they buy liabilities disguised as status. This is how they get burned in markets, in crypto, in speculation. They act impulsively because they feel pressure. You will not. You will build a new rule. No financial decision gets your immediate reaction. Not a purchase. Not an investment. Not a loan. Not an opportunity. Delay it. 3 minutes. 3 hours. Sometimes 3 days. Whatever the timescale, the rule is the same. Delay is power. The pause protects you. Because discipline beats excitement. Because clarity beats hype. Because patience beats panic. You don't need their permission. You need discipline. 4. Power over yourself. The pause is not just about the outside world. It is about your internal world. It is about mastering your own impulses. You want to quit a workout? Pause. You want to lash out at someone? Pause. You want to sabotage your progress? Pause. You want to spiral into self-criticism? Pause. The pause gives you the space to ask the real questions. Is this action aligned with who I want to become? Will this move me forward or backward? Is this emotion temporary, or is it telling me something I need to examine more carefully? You have a choice. You always have a choice. The pause gives you that choice. Most people live like a fuse. One spark, and they explode. They justify it by saying, "That's just who I am." No, that is not who you are. That is who you have allowed yourself to be because you never built the discipline of delay. You want to transform. Slow down, then act with intention. 5. Real-world instructions. Let's make this practical. Starting today. Rule 1. Before answering anything emotional, pause for 3 seconds. Rule 2. Before spending money you did not plan to spend, pause for 3 minutes. Rule 3. Before sending a message written in anger, pause for 30 minutes. Rule 4. Before making a decision that impacts your future, pause for 1 full night. These are not restrictions. These are protections. Because the pause protects you. And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. The more powerful you feel. The more control you gain over your life. Delay is not hesitation. Delay is not weakness. Delay is power. That's the key. You are building a life driven by discipline, not emotion. You are building a mind that does not react but responds. You are building a future shaped by intention, not impulse. You don't need their permission. You need discipline. And discipline begins with delay. You have mastered the pause. Now you are ready for the next step. One that determines your influence, your stability, and your reputation. You learned how delay gives you power. Now let's talk about how to protect your energy. Chapter 4. The discipline of breathing. Your life is built on one rhythm, one pattern, one cycle you repeat thousands of times a day without noticing. It is the first thing you do when you enter this world, and the last thing you do before you leave it. Breathing. You ignore it because it feels automatic. You dismiss it because it feels obvious. But if there is one discipline that separates reactive people from controlled people, chaotic minds from focused minds, impulsive decisions from strategic decisions, it is this: the discipline of breathing. You have a choice. That choice begins with the breath. And that's the key. Control the breath, control the brain. Right now, as you listen, your body is running a background program. If your breathing is shallow, fast, or erratic, your brain interprets that as danger. It floods you with cortisol and adrenaline. It switches your body into survival mode. Your thinking narrows. Your judgment collapses. You become reactive, emotional, and defensive. But the opposite is also true. If your breathing is slow, deep, and intentional, your brain interprets that as safety. It opens your thinking. It expands your awareness. It calms your nervous system. It gives you space, clarity, and control. This is not motivational fluff. This is physiology. This is neuroscience. When you control your breath, you hijack your own biology. You override the stress response. You silence the emotional noise. You switch the mind from reaction to strategy. Most people never even realize this power exists. They think stress is about the situation. They think anxiety is about the world. They think panic is about events outside their control. But stress begins inside you. Anxiety begins inside you. Panic begins inside you. And the breath is your switch. You don't need their permission. You need discipline. Control the breath, control the brain. Let's get direct. You have been breathing your entire life, but you probably haven't been breathing with intention. You haven't been using it as a tool. You haven't been using it as a weapon. You haven't been using it as a discipline. You breathe the same way everyone else does. Automatically. And automatic breathing produces automatic thinking. If you want disciplined thinking, you need disciplined breathing. That's the key. Why breathing matters. Every emotion has a breathing pattern. Anger is fast and shallow. Fear is tight and uneven. Stress is short and constricted. You know this feeling. The racing chest. The tight jaw. The rising heat. The internal rush that demands you react. But here is the truth most people never learn. If emotions can change your breath, then breath can change your emotions. This is where your power begins. You have a choice. When you control your breath, you send a new signal to your brain. I am not in danger. I am not overwhelmed. I can think. I can choose. Control the breath, control the brain. The tactical breathing method. You don't need a meditation room. You don't need incense. You don't need silence. You don't need permission from anyone. You need discipline. And a simple method anyone can use anytime, anywhere. Here it is. 4 seconds in. Hold for 2. 4 seconds out. Hold for 2. Repeat. This is called tactical breathing. It is used by soldiers, pilots, surgeons, negotiators, special operators, people whose decisions must be sharp, steady, and precise. They cannot afford panic. They cannot afford emotional fog. They cannot afford impulsive reactions. And neither can you. Breathe in for 4 seconds. Hold for 2. Breathe out for 4 seconds. Hold for 2. Do it again, and again, and again. Within 30 seconds, your nervous system calms. Within 1 minute, your focus sharpens. Within 2 minutes, your emotional state shifts. This is what discipline feels like. This is what control feels like. Control the breath, control the brain. Real scenarios where breathing saves you. Scenario 1. Stressful conversations. Someone challenges you. Someone confronts you. Someone throws accusations or criticism your way. Your chest tightens. Your breathing rises. Your mind starts racing. Before you respond, breathe. 4 seconds in. Hold. 4 seconds out. Hold. You have a choice, and the breath gives you that choice. Scenario 2. High-pressure decisions. You are about to make a financial move, a career decision, a major commitment. Your emotions are pushing you. Your impulses are loud. Breathe. Let the discipline override the urgency. Remember, it's not about anxiety. It's about discipline. It's not about pressure. It's about clarity. Control the breath, control the brain. Scenario 3. Moments of anger. You feel the heat rising. You feel the urge to snap, to insult, to explode. That is not strength. That is surrender. Anyone can lose control. Anyone can react. Anyone can yell. But discipline requires power. And the breath gives you that power. 4 seconds in. Hold. 4 seconds out. Hold. The breath protects your relationships. The breath protects your dignity. The breath protects your future. Scenario 4. Self-doubt and fear. Fear tightens the breath. Doubt closes the lungs. Panic shortens your rhythm. Use the breath as a reset. Slow, deep, steady. You don't need confidence to breathe. You don't need courage to breathe. You simply need discipline. And the breath creates the courage you think you lack. Control the breath, control the brain. Daily behavioral instructions. You need routines. You need structure. You need repetition. So here are your rules. Rule 1. Start every morning with 2 minutes of tactical breathing. This sets your nervous system for the day. Rule 2. Whenever you feel overwhelmed, do 3 rounds. No exceptions. Rule 3. Before any emotional conversation, breathe. Rule 4. Before bed, breathe for 1 minute to shift from noise to calm. Discipline is built through repetition. Strength is built through ritual. And nothing is more foundational than the breath. If you cannot control your breathing, you cannot control your thinking. If you cannot control your thinking, you cannot control your choices. If you cannot control your choices, you cannot control your life. But you are building control. You are building discipline. You are building power. Control the breath, control the brain. Final reinforcement. You have spent your entire life assuming your breath is automatic. But automation is not mastery. You cannot transform by living on autopilot. Transformation requires ownership. Ownership requires control. Control begins with breathing. You don't need their permission. You need discipline. This chapter is not about relaxation. It is about regulation. It is about stability. It is about self-command. That's the key. Every disciplined person you admire has mastered this. Every leader you respect uses this. Every high performer relies on this. Now it is your turn. Control the breath. Control the brain. Control your life. You've learned how to stabilize your internal state. Now it's time to protect your external world, your environment, your energy, your focus. Chapter 5. Stop letting people pull your triggers. People know how to get to you. They know what to say. They know what to poke. They know what tone to use, what message to send, what expression to make, what silence to hold. And they use it. They use it because it works. They pull your triggers. And you fire. That ends now. Your triggers are not their playground. Say it again. Your triggers are not their playground. You have a choice. And that's the key. The moment you react, the moment you explode, the moment you let someone's comment hijack your mind, you hand them power. You give them control. You surrender your emotional stability to someone who did not earn it and does not deserve it. You don't need their permission. You need discipline. This chapter is about taking back what you've been giving away for years. Your peace, your reactions, your mental space, your dignity, your time, your self-respect. All of it was being traded away every time someone pulled a trigger and you fired without thinking. It's not about anger. It's about discipline. It's not about pride. It's about control. The psychology of triggers. Let's break this down with brutal clarity. A trigger is simply a reaction you haven't learned to control yet. It is an emotional button shaped by your past, your insecurities, your wounds, your fears, your assumptions. Manipulative people know how to find these buttons. Not because they are smart, but because your reactions are predictable. Predictability is vulnerability. If someone knows exactly what to say to make you angry, they control you. If someone knows exactly what silence to hold to make you anxious, they control you. If someone knows exactly what tone will make you defend yourself, they control you. That's the key. Control. Triggers are control points. And right now, too many people have access to yours. Your triggers are not their playground. How people exploit your reactions. Let's look at what this looks like in real life. Passive-aggressive comments. Someone makes a little jab, a subtle insult, a disguised attack. They want you to flinch. They want you to bite. Because if you bite, you expose your sensitivity. You expose your insecurity. And now they know exactly where to aim next time. But you have a choice. You can pause. You can breathe. You can observe. You don't need their permission to stay calm. You need discipline. Online provocations. Someone comments under your post. Someone sends a snarky message. Someone tweets at you in a way that feels personal. They want to drag you into a reaction cycle. They want drama. They want attention. They want you to validate their existence. But your attention is expensive. Your peace is expensive. Your mental energy is expensive. And you cannot keep giving it away to people who are bankrupt in their own lives. Your triggers are not their playground. Competitive co-workers. Someone tries to outshine you. Someone undermines you in a meeting. Someone points out your mistakes publicly. They want you emotional. They want you off balance. The more reactive you are, the easier it is for them to position themselves above you. But you have a choice. You can remain composed. You can remain strategic. You can remain disciplined. It's not about ego. It's about discipline. It's not about winning the moment. It's about winning the long game. Why people trigger you. This is the part most people avoid confronting. People pull your triggers because your reactions reward them. Every reaction reinforces the behavior. Every outburst teaches them the pattern. Every emotional explosion trains them how to manipulate you. But if a trigger requires a reaction to exist, then the absence of reaction is the cure. You don't have to obey the emotional command. You don't have to respond immediately. You don't have to defend yourself. You have a choice. Always. And that's the key. Emotional manipulation 101. There are 4 primary methods people use to manipulate your reactions. Provocation. They poke, prod, insult, or irritate you, hoping to derail your clarity. Guilt. They exaggerate your responsibility, making you feel wrong for setting boundaries. Urgency. They pressure you to decide immediately, so you skip thinking. Fear. They hint at consequences to make you comply emotionally. Each method depends on one thing: your fast reaction. If you pause, the manipulation fails. If you breathe, the pressure dissolves. If you delay, the emotional spell breaks. Your triggers are not their playground. How to stop being triggerable? You need practical steps. You need structure. You need behavior, not theory. Here's the formula. Step 1. Name the trigger. If you can name it, you can control it. Is it disrespect? Is it rejection? Is it being ignored? Is it feeling misunderstood? You must identify the pattern. Most emotional traps are just old wounds repeating themselves. That's the key. Step 2. Pause for 3 seconds. 3 seconds. That's all you need. 3 seconds to inhale. 3 seconds to choose. 3 seconds to reclaim your power. Remember what you learned earlier. Delay is power. Step 3. Separate emotion from action. This is the discipline. Emotion is the signal. Action is the choice. People who control you blur the line. They make you think the signal is the command. But it isn't. You don't need their permission to choose differently. You need discipline. Step 4. Respond with clarity, not emotion. This doesn't mean staying quiet. It means staying intentional. You can speak. You can set boundaries. You can defend yourself. But you do it from strategy, not from reactivity. That's the key. Step 5. Reduce access. Some people should not have front row seats to your emotions. Some people should not have access to your attention. Some people should not have proximity to your reactions. Distance is power. Space is power. Silence is power. Your triggers are not their playground. When you stop reacting, everything changes. Here's the transformation you're building. People stop pushing your buttons because the buttons don't work anymore. People stop provoking you because the provocation gets no result. People stop controlling you because you stopped surrendering control. Your calm becomes confusing to them. Your discipline becomes threatening to them. Your lack of reaction becomes your new strength. You are no longer predictable. You are no longer manipulable. You are no longer emotionally available to chaos. You have a choice. And every time you choose discipline, you take your life back. Final reinforcement. Triggers are not destiny. Triggers are not fate. Triggers are not chains. They are simply untrained responses waiting for structure. And you are now building that structure. You are building discipline. You are building mental armor. Your triggers are not their playground. Not anymore. You've learned how to stop others from controlling your reactions. Now it's time to take control of the internal narrative that shapes your identity. Chapter 6. Ego. The enemy of the pause. Your ego is the single greatest threat to your ability to pause. Not your circumstances. Not other people. Not the situation you're facing. Your ego. The part of you that refuses to be questioned. The part of you that reacts first and thinks later. The part of you that would rather be right than be effective. If you want control, you must understand this truth clearly. It's not about your ego, it's about your discipline. Ego is impulsive. Ego is loud. Ego makes you believe that someone else's comment, someone else's tone, someone else's attitude requires an immediate response. But you have a choice. You always have a choice. You can let your ego dictate your reactions, or you can practice the pause that protects your growth. That's the key. Let's speak plainly. Ego is the enemy of the pause because ego feeds on speed. Ego doesn't want you to think. Ego doesn't want you to breathe. Ego doesn't want you to assess the consequences. Ego wants you to fire back. Ego wants you to defend yourself instantly. Ego wants you to prove something, anything, just to keep its image intact. Think of the last time you snapped back in a text message. The last time you fired off a comment on social media because someone challenged you. The last time you raised your voice in an argument because you felt your authority was questioned. Did the reaction help? Did the reaction improve the situation? Did the reaction align with the person you want to become? The honest answer is almost always no. You reacted because your ego felt threatened. And when your ego feels threatened, it overrides your discipline. It convinces you that your identity is under attack. It convinces you that your value is on the line. But your value is not determined by how quickly you react. Your value is measured by how intentionally you act. You must repeat this until it becomes instinct. It's not about your ego, it's about your discipline. Let's break this down through real-world situations. Take social media debates. You scroll. You see a post that feels wrong, or stupid, or offensive. And suddenly, you feel the urge, the compulsion to correct someone, to show them how much more you know, to prove that you're smarter, sharper, more informed. But here's the truth. Nobody wins a social media argument. Not one person. You don't change their mind. They don't change yours. And yet your ego will convince you that this moment, this post, this stranger's opinion, not your peace, not your time, is worth your reaction. But you have a choice. You can remind yourself, it's not about my ego, it's about my discipline. You can close the app. You can walk away. You can protect your energy. That's the key. Or consider relationship arguments. Maybe with your partner, a family member, a close friend. Someone says something you don't like. Maybe it came out wrong. Maybe it hit a nerve. Maybe you misheard it. But your ego doesn't care. Your ego will tell you that you must defend yourself instantly, that you cannot appear weak, that you cannot let them win. But let me tell you the truth with absolute clarity. Reacting quickly does not make you strong. Pausing makes you strong. Pausing shows discipline. Pausing shows emotional intelligence. Pausing allows you to decide whether this argument is even necessary. You have a choice. You always have a choice. Pause before you raise your voice. Pause before you interrupt. Pause before you escalate the situation into something that isn't even about the original issue anymore. The pause gives you clarity, and clarity is power. Now let's move into the workplace. This is where ego often disguises itself as professionalism. Someone criticizes your work. Someone questions your decision. Someone gives feedback that stings. And immediately, your ego wants to push back. It wants to justify. It wants to defend. It wants to remind them that you know what you're doing. But ask yourself, are you reacting to protect your growth, or are you reacting to protect your pride? In professional environments, the pause can be the difference between respect and regret. The pause gives you space to respond intelligently instead of emotionally. The pause allows you to say, "Let me think about that." The pause preserves your reputation. The pause allows you to step back and evaluate the feedback without burning a bridge. You have a choice. And choosing the pause is choosing long-term wins over short-term ego satisfaction. Here is the simplest way to understand the role of ego. The ego demands immediate reactions. Discipline demands intentional actions. Every time you feel triggered, every time you feel that heat rising in your chest, Every time you feel that urge to react without thinking, I want you to hear this phrase. It's not about your ego, it's about your discipline. Repeat it. Use it as a mental anchor. Use it as a reset. Use it as a shield against destructive impulsiveness. Because ego-driven reactions are never strategic. They are emotional. They are rushed. They are sloppy. And the consequences last far longer than the satisfaction of the reaction. You need to retrain your mind to interpret triggers differently. Instead of "I have to respond," shift to "I get to choose how I respond." Instead of "they're disrespecting me," shift to "my discipline determines my outcome." Instead of "I can't let this slide," shift to "my reaction is an investment. Am I investing wisely?" The pause protects you from becoming your worst self. The pause keeps you aligned with your higher standards. The pause is where your discipline lives. But here's the hard truth. Ego hates the pause because the pause exposes your insecurity. When you pause, you face yourself. You face the question, why does this bother me? Why do I feel threatened? Why am I reacting so strongly? And ego does not want you to ask those questions, because those questions lead to growth. And growth destroys ego. If you want power, you must outgrow your ego. If you want peace, you must silence your ego. If you want control, you must master your ego. This chapter is not about eliminating ego entirely. That's unrealistic. It's about recognizing when ego is driving the car. It's about reclaiming the wheel. It's about seeing ego as a signal, not a compass. Ego shows you where you're insecure, but discipline shows you where you're growing. You have a choice, and the pause is your greatest tool for making the right one. So let this truth anchor itself in your thinking. Your ego wants chaos. Your discipline wants progress. Your ego wants speed. Your discipline wants strategy. Your ego wants validation. Your discipline wants mastery. And mastery requires patience. Mastery requires intention. Mastery requires the pause. You've confronted your ego in this chapter. You've taken a hard look at what drives your impulsive reactions. That alone is an act of discipline. That alone is a mark of growth. Now let's build on that momentum. You've identified the enemy of the pause. Next, we address the skill that strengthens it. Chapter 7, The 3-Second Rule. There is one tool in this entire audiobook that will change your life the fastest. One tactic that will rewire your behavior, your emotions, and your outcomes. One discipline that requires nothing from the outside world. No money, no permission, no talent, just you choosing differently. It is the 3-second rule. 3 seconds. That is all. 3 seconds between the stimulus and your reaction. 3 seconds between your emotion and your decision. 3 seconds between who you have been and who you are trying to become. The rule works if you work it. That is the key. You have a choice. You always did. But now the choice is structured. Now it has a boundary. Now it has discipline. Because here is the truth most people refuse to accept. Your worst decisions happen in the first 3 seconds. Your impulsive texts. Your defensive arguments. Your emotional purchases. Your dramatic reactions. The first 3 seconds are where your life goes sideways. But those same 3 seconds can save you. They can protect your reputation. They can protect your momentum. They can protect your future. And most importantly, they can protect you from yourself. The rule works if you work it. 3 seconds is just long enough to interrupt the automatic program running inside your brain. The program built from fear, from ego, from childhood conditioning, from insecurity, from the desire to win the moment instead of winning your life. 3 seconds breaks that loop. 3 seconds lets discipline take the wheel. You have a choice. In every interaction, every conflict, every moment of pressure, you have a choice. You do not need their permission to claim your composure. You do not need their approval to slow down. It is not about speed. It is about discipline. Let's look at real life. Let's see how the 3-second rule rewrites outcomes instantly. Someone sends you a disrespectful message. Your old self fires back. Your old self escalates. Your old self takes the bait. Because ego wants victory. Ego wants domination. Ego wants to correct the disrespect. But ego ruins outcomes. The disciplined self pauses for 3 seconds. The disciplined self lets the emotion peak and then collapse. The disciplined self responds with clarity, or chooses not to respond at all. The disciplined self keeps control. That is the key. The rule works if you work it. Or consider a financial decision. You see a sale. You feel tempted. You feel urgency. You feel that familiar emotional pull. Buy it now. Act fast. Last chance. Marketers know this. They weaponize speed. They weaponize the lack of pause. They want you impulsive. They want you emotional. They want you rushing. You take 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Suddenly, the fog lifts. Suddenly, you see the truth. You do not need it. You are not acting from discipline. You are acting from impulse. And you make the wiser move. You have a choice. You always have a choice. And the 3 seconds give you access to it. The rule works if you work it. Think about confrontations. Someone raises their voice. Someone talks down to you. Someone challenges you. Your instinct is to prove yourself, to fight back, to defend your pride. But impulsive reactions rarely solve anything. They create damage you will spend days cleaning up. 3 seconds. Breathe. Reset. Reclaim your power. Respond with intention, not emotion. It is not about your flaw. It is about your discipline. Every time you pause, you strengthen a new neural circuit. A circuit of control. A circuit of clarity. A circuit of power. You are literally rewiring your personality. You are literally reshaping the person you become. That is not motivation. That is neuroscience. And it is available to you right now. 3 seconds. Let's get tactical. I want you to practice this in real situations, starting today. When someone makes a passive-aggressive comment, pause for 3 seconds. Do not react. Let their words fall flat. Let the moment breathe. You do not need their permission to control your reaction. When you receive a text that triggers you, do not open it. Or if you open it, do not respond. 3 seconds. Then 3 more. Then 3 more if necessary. The pause protects you. When you feel the itch to interrupt someone, pause. Let them finish. You become more respected instantly. You communicate calm authority. When someone tries to rush you into a decision, pause. Anyone who pressures you fears your clarity. Slow down. Assess. Evaluate. You have a choice. The rule works if you work it. Now let's go deeper. Because the 3-second rule is not just about reactions. It is about identity. It is about declaring who you are becoming. When you choose the pause, you choose strength. When you choose the pause, you choose intention. When you choose the pause, you choose a future not hijacked by emotion. People who cannot control themselves cannot build the life they want. That is a fact. Self-control is the foundation of maturity. And maturity is the foundation of power. You want power? You want respect? You want influence? Start with the pause. You have a choice. 3 seconds is your barrier between the person who reacts and the person who decides. Most people react. Few people decide. The few lead the many. The few dominate their field. The few rise above the chaos. The rule works if you work it. Let me be direct. If you adopt just one discipline from this audiobook, let it be this one. Because once you master the pause, every other habit becomes easier. Every other emotional challenge becomes manageable. Every stressful moment becomes navigable. The pause gives you leverage over your lower self. And that leverage is priceless. 3 seconds. That is your training ground. That is your practice. That is your daily test. And you will fail sometimes. You will rush. You will snap. You will react. But the point is not perfection. The point is awareness. The point is improvement. The point is discipline. The rule works if you work it. Start today. Start now. Start with whatever moment hits you next. And when your brain screams at you to respond immediately, when your ego demands instant action, when your emotions swing hard, stop. Pause. Count to 3. Reclaim your power, because you have a choice. Always. And now that you see the power of the pause, now that you see how 3 seconds can shift the entire trajectory of your life, it is time to explore something deeper. Something older. Something that every disciplined person must understand. You mastered the rule. Now you must master the environment. Chapter 8. The Discipline of Emotional Control. If there is one battlefield most people never learn to master, it is their own emotions. They think their feelings are in charge. They think their reactions are automatic. They think their impulses define them. But that is the lie. That is the trap. That is the mental slavery you must break. Because reacting emotionally is surrender. Reacting emotionally is giving someone else the steering wheel of your mind. Reacting emotionally is letting the world dictate who you are. You have a choice. That is the key. It's not about emotion. It's about command. You do not need their permission to control what happens inside you. You do not need their approval to stay grounded. Emotional control is not about becoming cold or robotic. It is about becoming strategic. It is about becoming intentional. It is about choosing the response that serves your future, not your ego. This is the moment you take your power back. Let's be honest. Most people react without thinking. They snap. They explode. They panic. They spiral. They drown in jealousy. They burn with anger. They let frustration hijack their day. Then they look back and regret everything. You are not here to live like most people. You are here to build something stronger. Your emotions are signals, not commands. They are indicators, not instructions. They are alerts, not orders. The difference between weakness and strength is how you handle those signals. Weakness obeys them. Strength interprets them. And that interpretation is where your discipline lives. It's not about emotion. It's about command. Let's talk about jealousy. Jealousy is a reaction that tells you one thing. You believe someone else has power over how you feel. You see their success. You see their progress. You see their relationship. And suddenly your insecurity wakes up. Suddenly you feel threatened. But jealousy is not about them. Jealousy is about your discipline. Jealousy is the emotion. Command is the response. You have a choice. You can spiral or you can strengthen. You can compare or you can improve. You can resent or you can build. The disciplined person uses jealousy as data, proof of what they want, proof of where they're lacking, proof of what needs work. That's the key. It's not about emotion. It's about command. Now let's talk about anger. Anger is one of the most destructive impulses when left unchecked. You know this. You've felt it. Anger makes you say things you do not mean. It makes you send messages you regret. It makes you escalate issues that should have remained small. Anger wants instant reaction. Discipline wants strategic response. You have a choice. And the moment anger rises, you must remind yourself, you don't need their permission to stay calm. You don't need their permission to pause. You don't need their permission to protect your future from your temporary feelings. It's not about emotion. It's about command. What about frustration? Frustration is the silent killer of progress. It makes you quit early. It makes you doubt the process. It convinces you that difficulty means failure. Frustration is the emotion. Discipline is the decision to persist anyway. You have a choice. Always. Frustration is your signal to slow down. It is your cue to take a breath. It is your reminder to adjust, not abandon. The disciplined person keeps going when frustrated because they understand one universal truth. Mastery requires discomfort. Every skill demands struggle. Every breakthrough has a breaking point before it. The weak run from that point. The disciplined walk through it. That's the key. It's not about emotion. It's about command. Let's move to impulsiveness. Impulsiveness is the opposite of leadership. Impulsiveness is the enemy of strategy. Impulsiveness is what keeps people broke, stuck, stressed, depleted, and ashamed. Every impulsive action is a reaction to short-term emotion. Impulse says buy. Impulse says respond. Impulse says attack. Impulse says escape. Impulse says now. But discipline says pause. Impulse is the emotion. Command is the 3-second rule you learned earlier. When you combine emotional control with a pause, you become unstoppable. You become someone who doesn't break under pressure. Someone who doesn't bend under anxiety. Someone who doesn't crumble under stress. You have a choice. Every time. Now let's talk about competition. Competition is emotional by nature. You want to win. You want to dominate. You want to outdo. But competition becomes toxic when it becomes reactive. When your desire to win turns into desperation. When you stop playing strategically and start playing emotionally. A reactive competitor loses. A disciplined competitor wins. Because the disciplined competitor chooses precision over panic. Patience over pressure. Focus over frenzy. You don't need their permission to play your game. You don't need their permission to move at your pace. You don't need their permission to rise in silence. It's not about emotion. It's about command. Now let's get practical. Let's talk about what emotional control actually looks like in your daily life. Emotional control means you don't respond immediately. You think. You breathe. You assess. You choose. Emotional control means you do not give people the reaction they expect. That's how you keep the upper hand. That's how you maintain your center. That's how you preserve your power. Emotional control means you step outside the moment. You ask, is this reaction aligned with my goals? If not, you hold the line. Emotional control means you stop letting others dictate the tone of your day. Someone else's mood is not your responsibility. Someone else's chaos is not your burden. Someone else's insecurity is not your assignment. You have a choice, and that choice is the beginning of mental freedom. It's not about emotion, it's about command. Here is the truth. Your emotions are not the problem. Your lack of command is. Your feelings are allowed. Your reactions are not. Leaders feel everything. They just don't act on everything. The person who controls their emotions controls their life. The person who controls their emotions becomes unpredictable, unshakable, unbothered, calm under fire, clear under stress, steady under pressure. That is who you must become. And you can. Because emotional control is not talent. It is not personality. It is trained discipline. You build it one pause at a time. One deep breath at a time. One choice at a time. You have a choice. You always do. And now that you understand emotional control, now that you understand that the real war is internal, that the real enemy is reactivity, that the real power is command, it is time to talk about something even more foundational. Because before you can control your emotions, you must control your environment. Chapter 9. Build mental armor through environment. Your mind is not a fortress by default. It becomes a fortress only when you build it. And the truth is simple. You cannot build strong mental armor while living in a weak environment. You cannot stay disciplined in a space that constantly drains you. You cannot stay focused when your surroundings are designed to disrupt you. Environment shapes reactions. Environment shapes behavior. Environment shapes identity. If you don't control your environment will control you. And you have a choice. That's the key. You don't need their permission to redesign the space around you. You don't need their permission to remove what no longer serves you. It's not about perfection. It's about discipline. The world is loud. Your phone is loud. People are loud. Work is loud. Noise is everywhere. And the louder your environment becomes, the weaker your response becomes. Because noise steals clarity. Clutter steals energy. Toxic people steal peace. Digital overload steals attention. You cannot expect yourself to respond with discipline while living inside chaos. Let's start with noise. Noise is not just sound. It's stimulation. It's interruption. It's pressure. It keeps your mind in a constant state of alertness. And when your mind is constantly alert, it is constantly reactive. This is why chaotic workplaces feel suffocating. This is why busy homes drain you. This is why you snap when the noise never stops. You have a choice. Protect your mental space. Protect your internal calm. That's the key. Now let's talk about clutter. Clutter is not harmless. Clutter is a silent enemy. Your brain processes your environment even when you're not thinking about it. A messy room spikes stress. A disorganized desk weakens focus. A cluttered home makes disciplined thinking harder. It's not about being a neat person. It's about discipline. Discipline creates order. Order creates clarity. Clarity creates power. Your reactions improve when your environment improves. Your choices sharpen when your surroundings support them. You don't need anyone's permission to clean your room, clear your desk, or organize your space. That is your responsibility. That is your discipline. That is your armor. Now let's move to toxic people. This is where most people fail. They try to master emotional control while keeping emotional landmines in their circle. They try to stay calm while surrounding themselves with chaos. They try to stay disciplined while letting undisciplined people influence them. Listen carefully. Your triggers are not accidents. They are connected to the people around you. The gossipers, the dramatics, the insecure, the manipulators, the attention seekers, the constant complainers, the ones who provoke your reactions because they benefit from them. Your environment is not just physical, it is social. You have a choice. Remove one toxic person today. That's the key. You don't need their permission to walk away. You don't need their permission to protect your peace. It's not about loyalty. It's about discipline. Loyalty to chaos destroys your future. Loyalty to peace builds it. Now let's talk about the digital world. Digital overload is one of the biggest enemies of mental discipline. Notifications hijack your focus. Algorithms manipulate your emotions. Social media feeds amplify your insecurities. Your phone is a portal to distraction, comparison, and reaction. You cannot build mental armor while checking every notification. You cannot build mental armor while scrolling your way into anxiety. You cannot build mental armor while reacting to every digital stimulus. You have a choice. Turn notifications off. Delete the apps that drain you. Unfollow the people who trigger reactions. That's the key. You don't need their permission to unplug. You don't need their permission to reset your digital diet. It's not about being anti-technology. It's about discipline. Because discipline is environmental before it is behavioral. Here's the truth most people avoid. Your environment determines whether your discipline becomes a habit or a fantasy. You can have the strongest intentions, the biggest goals, the sharpest mindset. But if your environment fights you, you will lose the battle. You cannot out-discipline a toxic environment. You cannot out-focus a noisy environment. You cannot outperform a draining environment. Your environment either reinforces your discipline or destroys it. So here is your directive. A simple one. A direct one. A powerful one. Remove one toxic person. Remove one distraction. Remove one bad habit. Do it today. This is how you build mental armor. Piece by piece, layer by layer, choice by choice. Every removal creates space. Every space creates clarity. Every clarity creates strength. Let's make this practical. If your workplace is chaotic, design microenvironments. Noise-canceling headphones. A clean section of your desk. A digital, do not disturb, period. Don't wait for the company to change. You have a choice. If your home drains you, rearrange it. Clean one room. Remove one pile of clutter. Throw away what anchors you to old habits. You don't need their permission. If your phone controls your day, reclaim it. Disable notifications. Put apps in folders. Remove apps from the home screen. Create 1 hour of silence. That's the key. If someone constantly disrupts your peace, distance yourself. Set boundaries. Reduce contact. Remove them from your inner circle. It's not about emotion. It's about discipline. The strongest version of you will never exist inside a weak environment. You must become the architect of your space, the designer of your atmosphere, the protector of your mind. Mental armor is not built during moments of crisis. Mental armor is built in the quiet decisions you make every day. When you choose silence over noise. When you choose order over chaos. When you choose distance over drama. When you choose discipline over comfort. You have a choice. You always do. And once you build the right environment, something powerful happens. Your reactions shift automatically. You stop snapping. You stop panicking. You stop spiraling. You stop overreacting. Because the environment no longer feeds your weaknesses, it feeds your strength. That's the key. It's not about emotion. It's about discipline. And discipline becomes natural inside an environment designed for it. You have built the pause. You have learned to breathe. You have learned to delay. Now you are learning to shape the world around you so your discipline can thrive. And once you master your environment, you are ready for the final level. The level where everything comes together. The level where your identity takes form. You controlled your reactions. You controlled your emotions. You controlled your space. Now it's time to master the source of everything. Chapter 10. Master your mind. Master your life. You want results. You want control. You want power. But here's the hard truth. Nothing you do externally matters if your mind runs wild. Chaos inside equals chaos outside. Every failed plan, every blown opportunity, every wasted hour begins in your head. Thought control equals life control. Repeat it. Master your mind, and you master your life. You have a choice. You always have a choice. That's the key. Your thoughts are the first battlefield. And most people surrender before the fight even begins. They let random thoughts, old habits, and emotional impulses dictate decisions. They react. They panic. They overthink. They lose. And the worst part? They blame the world for their failures. Don't be that person. You don't need their permission to take control. It's not about luck. It's about discipline. Think about it. Every decision you make is powered by thought. Every habit you maintain is reinforced by thought. Every action you take originates in the mind. If your mind is sloppy, reactive, and undisciplined, you will be too. And if your mind is disciplined, focused, and intentional, everything else, your work, your relationships, your goals, follows automatically. That's the key. Control attention, control identity. Control attention, control identity. The first step is awareness. Observe your mind. Catch yourself before you react. Track your thoughts like a predator stalking prey. Most people have 50,000 thoughts a day, and they have no control over a single one. They react to every impulse. They chase every emotion. They allow every fear to dictate behavior. Don't be that person. You have a choice. Choose awareness. Choose attention. Choose discipline. Here's the second step. Structure your thoughts. Most minds are like junkyards. Random, scattered, chaotic. You must impose order. And order is simple. It starts with a ritual. I call it the daily mental command ritual. Step 1. Set your intention. Every morning, declare clearly, this is my dominant focus today. This is my mission. This is what I control. It can be one word, one sentence, one principle. Repetition is key. Write it down. Say it aloud. Own it. You have a choice every morning. You can let the day dictate you, or you can dictate the day. That's the key. Step 2. Select your dominant thought. This is the thought you allow to dominate your mind whenever chaos arises, whenever fear creeps in, whenever doubt attacks. Your dominant thought must serve your highest purpose, not your lowest impulses. Example: I am disciplined. I control my actions. I am focused. Repeat it constantly. Control attention. Control identity. That's the key. Step 3. Nightly review. At the end of the day, examine your thoughts and decisions. Where did you react? Where did you surrender attention? Where did you let ego, fear, or distraction control your behavior? Record it, reflect on it, and plan tomorrow's intention with even more precision. This is the transformation loop. This is where thought control becomes life control. You have a choice every night. You can ignore this, or you can own it. That's the key. Let's address the common flaw most people fall into: multitasking thoughts. They try to process everything at once. They allow random worries, social media updates, and hypothetical scenarios to hijack their brain. It's not about being calm. It's about command. You don't need their permission. You don't need to respond to every mental ping. You don't need to chase every emotion. You need discipline. You need control. The truth is harsh. Your mind will lie to you. It will tell you you're overwhelmed. It will tell you you're too tired. It will tell you someone else is responsible for your results. Ignore it. That's the key. It's not about your excuses. It's about your discipline. Every time you override a negative or reactive thought, you gain mental armor. Every time you choose intention over impulse, you reinforce dominance over your mind. Every time you repeat your dominant thought, you reshape your identity. Control attention, control identity. Control attention, control identity. Now, let's talk about action. Mental mastery is not passive. Thought without execution is useless. Control of the mind must produce control in life. That's why the ritual works hand in hand with behavior. When you choose your dominant thought in the morning, align your actions with it throughout the day. When doubt creeps in, return to your command. When distraction attacks, refocus. You have a choice at every micro moment. Micro moments determine macro results. That's the key. Example: a difficult conversation at work. Your mind wants to panic, react, or over-explain. Instead, follow the ritual. Step back mentally. Recall your dominant thought. I am disciplined. I control my response. Pause. Breathe. Respond deliberately. Control attention. Control identity. The outcome changes instantly. Your mind leads. Your life follows. Another example: financial decisions. Your mind tempts you with instant gratification, fear of missing out, or overanalysis. Follow the ritual. Return to your intention. Pause. Reflect. Execute with deliberate thought. You don't need their permission. You don't need external validation. You need discipline. That's the key. By now, you should see the pattern. The entire book has led to this point. Stop reacting. Delay. Control emotion. Shape your environment. Strengthen your identity. All of these lessons converge inside the mind. Thought control is not an abstract concept. It is the final battlefield. And you must win it. Here's the transformation in full clarity. Awareness gives you choice. Ritual gives you structure. Dominant thoughts give you power. Reflection gives you improvement. Consistent action converts thought into reality. Your mind is a muscle. Every intentional thought is a rep. Every pause is resistance training. Every deliberate focus session strengthens neural pathways for discipline, calm, and clarity. You have a choice. Every thought is a chance to train. Every decision is a chance to reinforce mastery. That's the key. Remember, the chaotic mind produces chaotic life. The disciplined mind produces deliberate results. Control attention, control identity. Control attention, control identity. Let that sink in. Internal mastery is no longer optional. It is essential. You don't need permission from anyone to own it. You don't need a perfect day to start. You don't need external validation. You have the power in your mind. You have the control. That's the key. So here is your challenge. Start the daily mental command ritual tomorrow. Declare your intention in the morning. Select your dominant thought. Review your day at night. Every day. No excuses. No shortcuts. No exceptions. You have a choice. You always do. And every day you execute this, you build mental armor no one can break. Every day you execute this, your identity strengthens. Every day you execute this, your life aligns with your highest purpose. You mastered reactions. You mastered emotion. You mastered your environment. Now, you master your mind. And when you master your mind, you master your life. That is the ultimate discipline. That is the ultimate freedom. That is the ultimate power. Next step. Your life from this day forward is not accidental. Your results are intentional. Your habits are deliberate. Your identity is chosen. You have built the foundation. Now execute. Master your mind. Master your life. Control attention. Control identity. Repeat it until it becomes you. And with that, this chapter and this book culminates in one principle. Thought control equals life control. You have a choice. You always have a choice. That's the key. Conclusion. You made it to the end. That alone proves something powerful. You want control over your life. And now you know the truth. Control doesn't come from reacting faster. It comes from reacting smarter. You learned that emotions aren't commands. You learned that the pause is power. You learned how breathing resets your system, how ego sabotages your choices, how environment shapes your mind, and how discipline, not impulse, builds the life you want. Every chapter gave you a tool. Every tool gives you a choice. And that choice appears every single day. When someone disrespects you, when fear shows up, when frustration spikes, when pressure hits. In those moments, you either fall into the old pattern or rise into the new identity. The identity you built here. The identity of someone who pauses, thinks, and chooses. So here's your challenge. For the next 7 days, practice the 3-second rule with absolute discipline. Use it in every conversation, every decision, every difficult moment. Show yourself what happens when you finally master your reactions. Because once you master your reactions, you master your life. The rest is up to you.